Hey orchestra students, this is lesson 28 and our last video for the whole year. Congratulations on making it through your first year playing a string instrument. Today, as we're nearing the end of the school year, I want to introduce to you one final instrument that you could choose to play next year in 5th grade orchestra. This is our string bass, and today's lesson video is going to be all about the bass. The string bass is a really important member of our orchestra instrument family, and I hope that you might feel excited and maybe encouraged to give this instrument a try next year. So stay tuned to learn more about the bass today. Let's get started learning about the bass. It is the lowest sounding instrument of our string family. As you can see, it's the largest. It is larger than a cello and generally sounds one octave lower than the cello, to give you an idea for the range and register in which it plays. This instrument might look kind of large and intimidating to you, but do not fear, because we have basses that are sized just right for elementary age students. They come in fractional sizes, so a lot of beginning bass players will start on what's called an 1/8 size bass, or maybe a 1/4 size bass. So don't worry about the size too much. I also want to tell you that at the middle school, where you'll be attending in 5th through 8th grade, we have school-owned basses. So you would not need to bring your bass to and from school if you are at the middle school in 5th through 8th grade. So that's something to consider. If that's important to you, you will have your bass at home for practice. And then at the middle school, you'll use one of our school-owned basses during the day. Let's listen to our open strings on the bass. And I want to point out that the high string on the bass is actually a G, which is it's not the high string on any of our other instruments. And our low string on the bass is called E. So if you're a violinist, it's actually the reverse from your string order. So high is G, next is D, then A, kind of sitting in the middle instead of on the higher end. And then the lowest and thickest string is the E. So those are our open strings on the bass. Just give you kind of a general idea for the sound. I hold my bow. This is called a French bow hold, which is what most of us have learned together, and that's what I would be teaching. There's a different bow hold called a German bow hold for bass players only. And if you took private lessons, maybe your private instructor might teach you the German bow hold. But this is the French bow hold on the bass. It's very similar to our cello bow hold, again bent thumb, where our pinky is dropped down instead of being on top of the stick like on violin and viola. So a really common transition instrument to the bass would be coming from cello, just because it has a similar left hand setup, similar left hand shape to the cello, similar bow hold, and it reads the bass clef notes just like on cello. However, that's not to say that if you play violin already, you could certainly switch to a bass next year, especially since you're familiar with having an E string on your instrument. Let's listen to a familiar tune. Let's hear what Hot Crossed Buns would sound like on the string bass. If you're looking at my left hand, you're seeing that it's set up almost identical to the cello, where we have our Coke can hand shape, and then we put that right on the back, thumb in the center back of our hand, nice rounded fingers, and then I have my bow shelf here, or I float my left elbow up nice and high. My first finger tape generally comes to my eye level for our height. You might remember the May song, which we learned together this year in orchestra. Let's listen to what it would sound like on the bass. A lot of times we'll see a bass played in a jazz ensemble or some other kind of non-string orchestra setting. Sometimes they're even playing in a symphonic band or a wind ensemble. So the bass is a really important and versatile instrument. You can really go almost anywhere from playing the bass. It's really incredibly important for the foundation of any musical ensemble. It sets a lot of the foundation for rhythmic stability and also harmonic stability. So playing in tune on the bass is really, really important. And this low register sound really holds and supports any ensemble. So if you want to be a bass player, it's a really important job, and you have to be very attentive, and you have to be able to play in tune and on time and all those sorts of things. It's kind of the unsung hero of any musical ensemble, and all orchestra teachers everywhere always really appreciate having a really strong and solid bass section. Sometimes bass players will play pizzicato maybe more often than other instrument sections, and they might perform some kind of a familiar sounding bass line like this, again to kind of hold down the foundation rhythmically and harmonically. Another thing that's unique to the bass in beginning orchestra levels is that the bass students often learn how to shift out of first position pretty quickly, and almost always before the violins and violas and cellos. Shifting is when we move our left hand from what's called first position, where we have our first finger on our first finger tape. This is like the standard placement of our hand when we're beginning. We might move from first position and then bring the whole hand as a unit up to maybe third position, for example. So this shifting of the hand is something that's a lot more common on the bass than it is on the other instruments. So if you're looking for a little bit of something unique or a little bit of a challenge, something different than what the violins and violas and cellos are doing, you might like to play the bass so that you could learn shifting early on. A familiar tune French folk song, I can demonstrate a little bit about shifting in the left hand. And you see that I ended in first position. My hand started up here in third position, and then I brought the whole hand back into first position. So shifting is another kind of cool thing about playing the bass. So that's about it for today. I'd love to hear how many of you might be interested in trying the bass next year in orchestra. Remember that it's sized just right to you, and if you are in grades 5 through 8, we have school basses that you can use so that you can leave your personal bass at home for practice. For your homework this week, your last homework assignment for me in 4th grade orchestra, I would love for you to submit a Flipgrid video of yourself playing your favorite song that you learned this year. It could be as simple as the Ants song. If that was your favorite thing, go for it. Or Hot Crossed Buns, or Ode to Joy, or Rigadoon. Think about all the songs from our packets and from our book that we've learned this year. You can reflect and look back at previous assignments, previous lesson videos, flip through the old packets, and find the one that says, oh, I really loved playing that song, and I want you to record a video of yourself playing it for me on Flipgrid, and all the information is on our Google Classroom for that. All right, awesome job learning an instrument for the first time this year, a string instrument. I've loved working with you all, and I cannot wait to see you in 5th grade orchestra next year. Happy practicing.